Now at 11, people in Battleground gathering and remembering a former high school athlete shot and killed this weekend.
He just graduated in June, but even his presence now is still tremendous.
Plus, a countdown to demolition, how the city of Portland and crews are preparing to tear down a century-old landmark on the waterfront.
You know, you're used to coming up and walking out, and that's kind of a focal point of the community, and it's going to be gone.
And later on, one group's message as they undertake a peaceful pilgrimage to the Portland Ice Facility.
We are seeing history repeat itself, and we must say no more.
A vigil was held in Battleground this evening to remember an 18-year-old killed by a gunshot early Saturday morning. Another 18-year-old has been arrested on manslaughter charges. Organizers of the vigil say the recently graduated football player will be missed tremendously by not only former teammates, but the community. The Battleground community shaken after two former high school athletes were involved in a shooting early Saturday morning. Less than 48 hours later, a vigil was held to remember an 18-year-old killed in that shooting. We are not sharing his name at this time out of respect for his family.
Football was a huge part of his life. His football family was a huge part of his life. And we just wanted to make sure that we are showing that support and honoring him.
According to the Clark County Sheriff's Office, deputies were dispatched to Hawkinson Meadows Community Park in Brush Prairie shortly after 1 a.m. Saturday. There they found the 18-year-old deceased with a single gunshot wound to the chest. Investigators say a large group of people, mostly teens, had gathered at the park. Many vehicles were leaving the scene as deputies arrived. During the investigation that night, deputies recovered a Glock 17 handgun in the park. 18-year-old James Gill has been arrested and charged with second-degree manslaughter. Witnesses telling deputies the handgun discharged while it was in Gill's hands. Gill graduated from Battleground High School just weeks ago. He is a standout baseball player and had committed to play for the University of Washington. The Clark County Sheriff's Office says this remains an active investigation. The community grieving the loss of an 18-year-old described by the Football Booster Club president as being one of one.
We are going to have some speeches from people that love him. There will be a short video, and then there will be just moments of silence with music for him and all of us just praying together.
Breaking news tonight out of Washington. State Patrol has issued an endangered missing person advisory after an infant was taken this morning out of Vancouver. WSP says Raul Martinez took 7-year-old Marcelo Martinez around 5 or 6 this morning. They left in a late 90s red Jeep Grand Cherokee, which may have evidence tape on it. The license plate number is not known. Marcelo is wearing a blue onesie saying grandmas are the best. If you see them, call 911 right away. And new tonight out of Lebanon, the Lebanon Fire District continues to investigate how a building caught fire. Firefighters were called just before 9 last night to Lawrence Drive, that's just off of Lawrence Street. There they found the property owner trying to put out the fire with a garden hose. Firefighters helped to quickly get that fire under control. The owner was treated for a minor burn to their hand. In less than 24 hours, demolition crews will begin knocking down part of the Centennial Mills warehouse in northwest Portland. A huge fire tore through the long-abandoned building 2 weeks ago now. Kyle Oboshi runs us through what's going to happen before the blast goes off.
The countdown is on. Monday afternoon, crews will begin demolition of the Centennial Mills warehouse, starting with the building's water tower. It will be taken down with 4 controlled explosions.
You know, we understand that we're going to have some alarms going off and some little couple of boom booms, and it's going to look different than it does today.
Before the blasts begin, the city will send out a text alert to nearby residents, and crews will clear a 300-foot area around the entire building. Everyone will be pushed back.
People are coming down, and everybody's rubbernecking. Got my rubberneck on.
Sirens will sound just minutes before the blast, and then there will be a 5-second countdown.
I don't know. I'm waiting for a loud boom for my cat to hide under the bed. I'm expecting it to be dusty.
Officials caution people living in the area to stay inside until the dust clears. The demolition comes 2 weeks after a huge fire burned all 7 floors of the long-abandoned building.
Look, I know that this fire has been very inconvenient on folks. We're doing everything we can to bring this building down expeditiously.
Once the tower is demolished, crews will begin taking down the remaining walls. It may take up to 2 weeks to bring the building down to half its current height. Crews are also pushing back aircraft and drones. The FAA issued a temporary flight restriction around and above the building. Kyle Aboshi, KGW News.
All right, let's take a live look outside right now. A cloudy start gave way to a beautiful day in the metro today. Meteorologist Joe Ranieri joining us now with how we're going to start the work week. Joe?
Beautiful is the best way to describe the forecast over the next 7 days. Now, with that said, tomorrow morning won't start beautiful. It'll start off cloudy, but those clouds quickly melt away, and we're going to be looking at temperatures a little bit warmer from what we saw earlier this afternoon, John. Throughout the metro area, we topped out in the low 80s from Portland International Airport down into wine country, McMinnville, a little bit warmer at 83. Along the Oregon coast, temperatures were right around 70 degrees. Tomorrow morning, we'll be looking at very comfortable conditions, and by 11 a.m., we're looking at nothing but clear skies. Temperatures anywhere from about 82 to 85 degrees, and then going into the next couple of days, that's kind of what we're going to be running into. Morning onshore flow followed by afternoon clearing. We still have the air quality alert throughout parts of Clackamas County, the foothills of the mountains, and into parts of eastern Oregon as well. Fire weather watch will be taking effect on Tuesday through parts of the gorge. Again, low relative humidity. There is a chance to see some thunderstorms materialize over the next couple of days as well, especially along the east side of the state. But throughout the west side of the state, we're going to be dealing with a little bit of some thin smoke here and there. It'll finally really thin out throughout the central and eastern side of the state. As we all know, that thick smoke has been basically over in eastern Oregon for about a month now, finally getting a little more fresh air on that side of the state. I'll talk more about your detailed forecast in just a few minutes.
All right, Joe, thanks so much. We'll see you later in the show. In Central Oregon, officials say firefighters have turned the corner on one of the state's largest wildfires, the Roe Creek Complex. As of this afternoon, the complex is 89% contained, with no forward progression being reported along its perimeter. It's burned more than 373,000 acres. Crews are working to secure the edge and mop up hotspots for full containment. With conditions improving, some teams have started demobilizing and heading home. Southeast of Mount Hood, crews have reached 38% containment on the Grasshopper fire. Accurate mapping of the fire puts it at about 90,000 acres. Today, crews are taking advantage of the weather, securing existing lines before high fire danger returns this week. There are level 1, 2, and 3 evacuation orders in effect. Well, 2 weeks after 3 devastating wildfires erupted around Spokane, the fight is winding down. Most firefighters are now off duty, but not before making lasting impacts in more ways than one. 21-year-old Elysium is a restaurant server, and she lost her home in a fire this week. This week, she ended up serving a group of firefighters from California that battled the flames that destroyed her family's home. That night, they left about a $100 tip, but they'd be back a second night to give her even more.
I started to tear up a little bit, and I immediately tried to give back, and I was like, I can't take this from you guys. Like, you're already here doing everything you can. Why?
I used to be pretty cynical before this, and just people sucked. But then after this, it really changed the way I see people.
Altogether, those firefighters tipped about $1,000. To growing new concerns now relating to the war in Iran. Overseas tonight, lawmakers seek answers about life on board a different Navy ship in the Mideast, as they also continue to ask about conditions on board the USS Abraham Lincoln. Julie Sirkin is traveling with the president.
Tonight, concerns about another carrier ship in the Middle East, with U.S. Naval Forces Central Command denying a new report of a supply crisis on the USS Boxer. A family member telling the left-leaning Midas Touch News that women have run out of feminine hygiene items, writing they were begging us to send products, but none got delivered. Navy CENTCOM calling the claim false, adding the ship is fully equipped and has had 2 major deliveries this month. A social media account for the ship posting these photos today showing Marines and sailors distributing fresh deliveries, writing stocked, supplied, ready. It comes after service members on the USS Abraham Lincoln reported dealing with poor conditions, a longer than usual deployment, and low morale, according to their relatives. President Trump and the Pentagon dismissing it all.
We know they're not.
On Saturday, the U.S. Admiral overseeing the war effort visited the Lincoln, according to Central Command. Admiral Brad Cooper on board the ship as it prepares to make the journey home. The USS George Washington to be deployed in its place. Senator Ruben Gallegos says he communicated with the spouse of a service member on the Lincoln, who reports the issues are ongoing.
As of 3 days ago, she was sharing with me text messages that her husband was forwarding to her, as well as pictures. You're going to have problems with retention once people get back and families start meeting again.
Key Senate Democrats are pressing the Pentagon for answers. In a new letter to Secretary Pete Hegseth, all 13 Democrats on the Armed Services Committee asking what led to food and water shortages, broken plumbing, and mental health crises severe enough that multiple sailors reportedly attempted to go overboard, and asking for a clear timeline for the crew's return. Julie Sirkin, NBC News.
Well, back in the Rose City this morning, a group of Japanese Americans, faith leaders, and immigrant rights advocates journeyed from the Portland Expo Center to the ICE facility. Organizers with Suru for Solidarity say this pilgrimage for peace calls for the end of child detention and family separation by immigration policies and officials. Many descendants of those were World War II detention camp survivors that took part. They began at the former Portland Temporary Detention Center before stopping at the Japanese American Historical Plaza to honor those incarcerated in those camps. The local action part of a series of events across the country urging history to not be repeated.
112,000 children were incarcerated indefinitely during World War II, and we know what that's like. We have survivors of what that's like, and we feel like we have the moral authority, but also the moral responsibility to say no.
Advocates plan to soon have a pilgrimage in Washington State to the Northwest Detention Center in Tacoma. And tomorrow, the Portland Trailblazers are reportedly set to meet with representatives for the city of Portland. It's after the city council passed a term sheet for a deal over the future of Moda Center. That's according to OPB. Wednesday's 8-4 vote approving the offer was the culmination of months of city talks, some public, some behind closed doors. Now, months of negotiations with the Blazers are expected to come to a head for a final vote on the deal in December.